Welcome to Ivri Anochi. I am a Hebrew, learning biblical Hebrew through the book of Jonah, class number 4 with me, Rabbi Rafi Mallet, aka Everybody's Rebbe. This class is brought to you by the Seattle Kollel. If you'd like to donate, please go to seattlekollel.com, SEATTLEKOLLEL.com. And you could also find links in the description of the video from my website, rabbirafimallet.com, with links to my social media, my content, and a calendar where you can book time to study with me. You can also email me at rabbirafimallet@gmail.com if you'd like to participate in the class, not just as a passive viewer on YouTube, but live in the virtual studio. Send me an email and let me know you'd like to join the class, rabbirafimallet@gmail.com. We've got Spooky here on the tubes. What's up, Spook? Okay, we're gonna jump right into things. If anyone has questions, comments along the way, put them in the comment box, or if you're in the studio, please feel free to speak up. Right now, I'm gonna put on the screen the study links, and we'll make a few comments about that. Let me blow that text up a bit. Okay, so you'll notice I've made a few changes to this document. The link to this document can be found in the pinned comment on the YouTube live chat, and also I'm going to put it in the private chat of the studio. When you open up this document, you will see links to these resources, the worksheets. And now what I've done is when I update any of these resources, I will let you know that this was updated today with the verse 3, which you're going to be working on tonight. I've added a second set of Shorashim today, so that's new. And that's for study on Quizlet. I added a second set of vocabulary words to study on Quizlet. I added more prefixes to the prefix Quizlet set. I've added more suffixes to the Quizlet study set. And I've updated the glossary with the new words, shorashim, prefixes, and suffixes that we will be using tonight. Now, everyone should please follow my instructions carefully so you can follow along. You will click on the link to the worksheets, the top link here, and you will click through to the worksheet. And now, once you are in the worksheet, and we can blow this up also, but that's not the biggest deal. What I want you to do is listen carefully. You click up here where it says File, okay, in the upper left corner where it says File, and you click Make a Copy, okay, and you'll get Copy of Jonah Worksheets. You're going to hit the blue button, Make a Copy, and then you will have this that says Copy of Jonah Worksheets, and you'll be able to edit this document at any time. We have a new student coming into the class. Hello, Abigail. How are you? Can you hear us? Do you hear us? Okay. Well, we're happy to have you. Okay. So we're going to look at our copy of the worksheet, and we're going to go scroll down. This is what we did last week. 2 weeks ago, it wasn't 2 weeks ago. It was really several weeks ago. We had a break. But the first class, we did verse 1, and the word of Hashem was to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, you can go back to that class, how we translated that. And last week we did this longer verse. Kum, get up, lech, go. This is Hashem speaking to Jonah. Go el Nineveh, to Nineveh, ha'ir hagedolah, the big city. Ukra alaha, and call unto her. Ki alasara asam lifanai, because their evil, their wickedness has risen up before me. Okay, so this is God telling Jonah, go to the city of Nineveh and call out to them because of their wickedness. Now we get to verse 3, and if you thought verse 2 was long compared to verse 1, which is very short, verse 3 is much longer. So we definitely have it's about twice the length. We have our work cut out for us tonight. I'm going to enlarge the text so it's easier to see. And if there are no questions or comments, we're going to go ahead and begin. We have a comment from Jesse Links. Hebrew is an amazing language. Agreed. Let's go ahead. Please feel free to comment or question or stop me at any time. So I'm going to now solicit the student for some information because we already learned the pink section. The pink is, I highlight prefixes in pink. So this line, you should be able to translate already. Now, you know what I'll do first is I'll read the verse. And what you might notice is there's some symbols surrounding the words that are not vowels. And someone actually asked about this last week in the chat, and I didn't have a chance to address that comment. But these symbols are what's known as the cantillation marks, and they are a sign for the reader, the one reading the text, of what tune to use to sing. And they serve a sort of, they're like punctuation. These symbols and the way you sing it indicates the punctuation of the verse. You have to keep in mind that in a scroll, there would be neither vowels nor punctuation. The vowels and and the cantillation are added in the printed editions as really just to help the reader. But essentially, it's all oral tradition. Now here it says, I'll read the verse. You can hear the tune of it, and then we'll go into translating it. Vayakom Jonah livroach tarshisha milifnei Adonai vayered yafo vayimtza aniyah ba'asar shish vayitein sechara vayered ba lavo imahem tarshisha milifnei Adonai. Okay, so this first line, Vayakom Jonah, if you paid attention in the last few classes and you reviewed and you studied, you should already be able to tell me what this means. If anyone in the class is so bold as to tell me they already know how to translate this, let's hear her. I'll give you a chance. Okay, Abigail tried to join the studio. There was some technical difficulties. She's back on YouTube. Abigail, we're sorry that we did not succeed in having you in the studio, but we're glad you're watching on YouTube. Okay, so let's review. If you know the answer, feel free to call out. We learned this prefix of the vayud prefix. For those who remember, the vayud prefix is and he, vav being and the yud normally signifying he will in the future, but this vav being the reversing vav, tell me if this sounds familiar, makes it past tense. So vayud, and he did in the past do what? And we have the shoresh kuf mem. Now, I told you shorashim have 3 letters. Sometimes one of those 3 letters disappears. That could be the letter yud, vav, nun, or hey, spell Yonah, as we spoke about before. Yonah means a dove. The dove flies away just like these letters fly away. So one of the 3 letters of this shoresh flew away, and it was one of those 4 letters, yud, vav, nun, hey. So if anyone remembers or wants to look in the glossary quickly and tell me what is the shoresh and what does it mean, I'll give you a chance now. Okay. So what this over here is, well, I'll show you in the glossary. We'll bring up the preview of the glossary here. This is, I don't see how I can scroll over to the side. So maybe I'll blow up the glossary just for a moment. We have this shoresh here. We had from last week, to arise, stand up, or get up. So going back to our worksheet, look at the last week. And God says to Jonah, what does he say? Kum, get up. So now we have that here. Vayakom, and he what? And he got up. And who got up? The name that immediately follows, the noun that immediately follows, tells you who is the actor of this verb. Vayakom, and he got up. Jonah, and Jonah got up. So we can fill in the pink with and. The purple is Jonah, if you like. And here we could have, and Jonah arose, he got up, whatever, fancy words you want to use that convey the meaning. It's fine with me. Okay. So Jonah got up. God said, get up. And Jonah got up. Sounds like he's listening to God, right? But we might be in for a surprise. Because what does it say? He got up. Liv roach tarshisha. Let's take a look. Lamed prefix we did not encounter yet. But for those who did their homework and they studied their Quizlet prefixes, they would know that the Lamed prefix means, I give you a chance, it means 2 or 4, in this case 2. And then we have a shoresh, yellow shoresh, bet resh chet. And what is bet resh chet shoresh? We'll go to our glossary, okay? And we have it in alphabetical order. If you know the order of the aleph bet, first comes aleph, then comes bet, right? Aleph bet. So in the bet shorashim, we have bet resh chet, which is to run away or flee. So we have livroach. Jonah got up not to follow God's directive, but rather to run away or to flee. Okay. Again, however you prefer to translate it. And where? Tarshisha. It's an interesting word. You can see from the way I've highlighted it that it's made up of 2 parts. It's made up of the proper noun Tarshish, which is the name of the place. And I've highlighted the hey suffix, which is actually a kamatz hey suffix, meaning this vowel that you see under the shin of Tarshish, the kamatz vowel, the sound, is part of the suffix. It goes together with the hey. It's an sound at the end of the word Tarshish, Tarshisha. Now, last week, we learned the meaning of the kamatz hey ending. If anyone remembers, you can shout it out now. The meaning of the kamatz hey ending we learned last week was the feminine ending. It indicates that a word is feminine. Sometimes, okay? So here's why I'm throwing you a curveball. Sometimes, but not always. The kamatz hey ending could signify something else, as it does here. And how do you know? So here's how you know. When it comes at the end of the name of a location, a place, or location, the kamatz hey ending indicates the preposition to. So Tarshish is the place, and Tarshisha means to Tarshish. So livroach Tarshisha, to run away to Tarshish. Okay, livroach Tarshisha, to flee or to run away to Tarshish. Okay, fine, good. So far, so good. Any questions about that? So you'll see what I've done here is I've put in the notes. In the notes down here, it says when kamatz hey suffix comes after a place, it means to the place. Okay, here's a little review that we'll see coming up. Is that verbs and adjectives will match the number and gender of the noun they're connected with, like we saw last week, and we'll see again this week. We'll apply that soon. So far, Jonah got up to run away to Tarshish. Dun, 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 dun. Let's go to the next line. Stop me at any time. Mi lifnei Hashem. Here we have a new prefix. Now, some people call this the mem prefix. I feel like that's a little misleading. Yes, it is a mem, but specifically when it has the vowels, the chirik e sound like it does here, mi, lifnei, or sometimes it'll have the tsere, which is the two dots side by side, which is an A sound for Ashkenazim, F for Sephardic pronunciation. So mi or may or meh, that means, anyone know? If you know it, you can go ahead and tell us. Okay, we have it in the prefix part of the glossary over here. May or me prefix is from. Okay, so let's plug that in. Let's plug that in. From. And now, Lifnei Hashem, we should know from last week already what Lifnei Hashem is. So if you remember from last week, again, we didn't have Lifnei Hashem, but we had Lifnei, and Hashem is Hashem, so that's easy. What is Lifnei Hashem? Go ahead and let me know.
From before Hashem.
Also, Mem from, Lifnei before, and Hashem from before Hashem. So you'll remember, just remind everybody, we go back to last week's verse, which we read in the beginning of this class. Get up, go to Nineveh, the big city, and call unto her, because her evil has risen lifanai, which we said is a combination of the word lifnei, before, that's in the glossary, and the I ending, which means me. Lifanai, before me. That's what we had last week. So we had already lifnei. So now Jonah gets up and runs away to Tarshish from before Hashem. We have Sandy. Welcome, Sandy. Good to have you. I see before we go to the next line, we have some comments here. Spooky comments, Lamed in front makes an infinitive. Yes, Lamed before a shoresh. We'll just point out what he's referring to here. Lamed before the shoresh, like here, livroach, means that it's the infinitive form of this shoresh, barach, right, to run away. So Lamed makes it that infinitive form. Infinitive, like in English, when you say to do something, to run, to jump, to walk, to talk, to eat, etc., to dance, right? That would be in Hebrew, li, Lamed prefix, with the shoresh following. Now, it works out in Hebrew that Lamed is also the prefix meaning to. So if you translate it directly as to, and then the verb, flee or run away, it works out the same way as the infinitive. But that's the comment Spooky is making. Will every infinitive have Lamed in front? As far as I know, offhand, as far as I can think of offhand, that's correct. Okay. Remember, comments, questions, welcome anytime. I don't want to waste time because it's a long verse. So I want to keep moving, but you're welcome to stop me. Okay, so next, we get the next line here, which says like this. Vayered Yafo. Okay, Vayud. We had it in the beginning of the verse. Is, speak up, somebody. Anyone? Vayud prefix?
It's a vav haipuch with a or haifuch with a male he will do, but the vav haifuch sets it to the past tense. And right. Yeah.
Good. So we have he and he, past tense. I don't want that to be capitalized. And he, and then we have this shoresh. Again, two letters appear. One letter is missing. What is that letter? It's a yud, vav, nun, or hey. We have resh and dalid. What's the missing letter? So here's where we'll invoke our glossary. And I'll just switch the tab because I have it already open. We have in the glossary for shorashim. Okay. Now, I'm just putting it on the screen here, and I'm going to let you find it. Okay? I'm gonna put it on the screen, and I'm gonna let you guys find it. Okay, who can point out for me which is our culprit here? Anyone? Which is the culprit? We're looking for a shoresh with a resh daled and a third letter that is one of the Yonah letters. Anyone see it? So here, yeah, here it is over here. We have the resh daled and the missing yud, and and here it's not even, when you look at the verse, it's not even so apparent that it's missing so much, because there is a yud. Where is it? There is a yud here. It just happens to be the yud is the prefix, but you might even almost see the shorish there. It's sort of combining together. But I kept it as its prefix. It's translated and he, and then so that what was the meaning of that shoresh? Yud resh daled, to descend or to go down. To descend or to go down. So back to our worksheet. And
why is there? I'm sorry, Rabbi. Why is there a dot in the yud in the preceding yud?
Okay, great question. This dot in Hebrew is known as a dagesh. A dagesh is a dot which indicates an emphasis of the sound. So it does a few things. One is an emphasis of the sound. Generally speaking, in contemporary Hebrew pronunciation, this emphasis is almost never it's almost never pronounced. The where it is typically pronounced is there are certain letters that will sort of radically or dramatically change their sound when that occurs. For example, like the letter bet without a dagesh is a vet. It's a v sound. With the dagesh, it becomes a hard b sound. In those certain letters, there is a major difference in the pronunciation. And there's a limited number of letters like that. I'm not going to go into that right now. So that number one is that. But as far as meaning, there are those grammatical writers who say that it's like a double letter. Like in this case, it's like a double letter because it serves both as the yud. It seems to be that it's serving both as the yud of he and the yud of the shoresh. The reason I'm a little troubled with that explanation is because you look at the very next line when you see vayimtza, the shoresh is full here, mem tzadi aleph. There's no additional yud, and yet this yud still has that dagesh. So it certainly has another purpose, and I'm not sure. I don't have enough knowledge to answer what exactly it is, but sometimes the commentators will say it's like in place of a double letter, and there are some who will enunciate it differently because of it. Why and when and exactly under what circumstances the dagesh appears is a little beyond what I know. So it's a great question. I don't have a great answer. That said, we have this shoresh vayered, and he descended, or he went down, and then we have Yafo, which is a place name, and that's Yafo is Jaffa. Okay, it's a port city on the coast of Israel, close to modern day Tel Aviv, and now what I've done here is to show you that he says, and he descended Jaffa, but it's missing the preposition to, and I've added it in because it's implied. It's one of those situations where you have an implied word. You'll get the hang of that. But for now, let's deal with what we have in front of us. So he goes down to Yafo. He descends to the port city of Jaffa. And let's go to the next line. Again, I'm looking at some of the comments now. Oh, Abigail's asking about the lamed in front of Emor in verse 1. Lay more. Okay, so let me address that. Lay more, which we didn't translate as to say, we translated as saying. Believe it or not, so maybe a little beyond the scope of this course, but in Hebrew there are times where what what makes sense to be the infinitive form in Hebrew doesn't make sense to be the infinitive form in English, and in English it becomes the ing form rather than the to form. And I'm trying to think of an example of that. Um, uh, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but that's why modern Hebrew, even today, like Israelis, when they try to speak English, a lot of times they default to the infinitive form, and it sounds awkward in English, but it makes perfect sense in Hebrew. But what they would have said if they were more fluent in English is the ing form of the word rather than the infinitive. It's like in Hebrew, there's no difference between the ing form, saying, right, and to say. But in English, they are used differently. So it's just part of the idiom, I guess. So lamor translated as saying and not to say, because in English it just doesn't make sense that way, but in Hebrew it does. So I wanted to address that. It is the infinitive, but in English it's the ing form. Okay. T Bishop says, so it's not a fish. So I'm not sure what you're referring to. So if you could clarify your question, I would be appreciative. Okay. Fine. Back to verse 3. He goes down to Jaffa. Vayimtsa Aniyah. So again, just to make it quick, we have Vayud, which we said is and he did in the past. What did he do? Mem Tzadi Aleph, new Shorish. All this has been added to the second Shorish set on Quizlet. Please study. Okay. And of course, it's also in the glossary, which I haven't already opened in another tab. We'll switch tabs. We have over here Matzah, Mem Tzadi Aleph. It's not vowelized, but it's sort of the same spelling as the word matzah, which means to find. So go back to our verse. And he, in the past, what? He found. And he found Aniyah. Aniyah. Look in our glossary, new word. Look in our glossary. And in alphabetical order, in the Aleph words, Aniyah is a boat or a ship. Now, I do want to point out over here something that people aren't aware of in Hebrew. This Aleph, okay, which has underneath it a vowel that looks like a kamatz, that T, which for Sephardic pronunciation is A, and for Ashkenazic pronunciation is Here, when it's attached with the two dots, vertical, which is called the Shava. The Shava, together with the kamatz, I know it looks backwards for you, I'm doing it forwards for me, is what's known as a chataf kamatz, which literally means a grabbed kamatz, and it's a shortening of the vowel. Now, this is not a shortening of the kamatz vowel, which we said the kamatz sound is shortened. We talked about this before, to a patach, which is the horizontal flat line, an sound. This vowel is actually the shortening of the O sound in Hebrew. And so this kamatz, this chataf kamatz, actually makes a sound more like O than or So this word for boat is Oniya. People don't realize that. They think it's Aniya. Aniya is not totally wrong for Ashkenazim, but if you are using, especially if you're using Sephardic pronunciation, this would not be Aniya, this would be Oniya. Oniya. Okay? I just want to point that out. So he Vayimtsa Oniya. He found it Oniya, and we didn't even look at the meaning. What is it? It's a boat or a ship. Okay? Oniya. So let's go back to our worksheet. He found a boat. Okay, any questions on that before we go to the next line? Okay, we have a clarification from T. Bishop. I was talking about the dot in the middle of the letter, which is called a dogesh. And he said dogesh sounds like a fish because dog or dog in Hebrew is a fish. Yes, dogesh is not related to a fish. So thank you for the question. This is not dog, it's dogesh. Fine. Next line. Stop me at any time. Moving a little quickly. Okay. So he found a boat, Ba'a Sarshish. Now I'm pronouncing this as a suf, which is how the Ashkenazi Jews pronounce the taf when it is lacking a dagesh. This is one of those letters where the dagesh will change the pronunciation of the letter. It makes it a hard sound rather than a soft sound. The Sephardic Jews do not differentiate between a taf with a dot or without a dot. The Yemenite Jews will pronounce this letter as a th sound. So for Yemenites, this will be Tarshish. But either way, it's a softened version of the taf sound. Okay, so Ba'a Tarshish or Ba'a Sarshish or Ba'a Tharshish, whatever is your preferred pronunciation. I won't, I won't have any prejudgments. Okay, so what does this mean? We have a shoresh, new shoresh with a bet aleph. It's in the second shoresh Quizlet set. We go to our glossary, and we'll find up here in the bet shorashim, it's this one here. Is the bet aleph. In between is a vav, one of the 4 Yonah letters. It disappeared in this word, and it to come. Okay, so there is a boat. Okay, by the way, for those who don't remember, you're not allowed to use a translation. No one's allowed to have a book of Jonah in English open in front of them. That is cheating. Okay, if you want to reference my translation, say, how come you translated it this way and my Bible translates it that way? I'm happy to take that question. But I want to teach you not to rely on the crutch of the English translation, but to learn how to bring it out. Okay. So we have something to do with coming over here. He found a boat coming to, and again, the to is implied. And as a matter of fact, I saw an amazing commentary here who says something so brilliant that I would question my own translation. Here's where I would say, open your English book of Jonah and tell me what it says. I want to know how they translate this, because my instinct was to translate it this way, but it's peculiar, as you will see. And I saw one of the commentators say a mind-blowing explanation. Be that as it may.
Sorry.
Do you have a comment? Someone has a comment?
Yeah, I mean, when I read it as going to, actually.
So that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that this shoresh here means come, not go. And what's the difference between come and go? And this is what this commentator asked. Why does it say coming to Tarshish? It should say going to Tarshish. Coming is when it's going from far and coming closer. Going is when it's going from here to further. It's the opposite. So that's question number 1. And question number 2 is, here he says livroach tarshisha, which we said that comment say at the end means to run away to Tarshish. And we'll see even at the end of the verse, again, it's going to say tarshisha, to Tarshish. And here I'm telling you the to is implied, and it's just coming Tarshish. Coming Tarshish. What? What? Why doesn't it say Tarshisha like the other 2 times? I wouldn't mean coming to, going to, right? So this commentator, this is the Malbim, he says, no, this boat was coming from Tarshish. That's why there's no to here, because it wasn't going to Tarshish. It was coming from Tarshish. Ba'a Tarshish, coming, and the implied is from, not to. And then the verb here fits, and it makes sense why Tarshish doesn't have the kamatzei at the end like it does here to Tarshish and here to Tarshish, because it was not going to Tarshish, it was coming from Tarshish. But everyone thinks it's coming to Tarshish because he was trying to go. That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to run away to Tarshish. So presumably the boat was going there, right? But no, it was coming from. And what's the significance of that? If this time we'll discuss it. But I translated, I think, the way that it's typically translated. And if you have a reference translation to look at now and tell me that it says something different than that, I would love to hear it. This is always the way that I read it until literally today. And I prepared the sheet based on my reading, even though I had those questions in my mind. Coming to, where's the to? And then I read this commentary and he says coming from. So, maybe we'll allow both to be implied here. Maybe we'll make allowance for both. Okay. Any questions, or I'm going to keep going? Long verse. 5 more lines. How many have we done? We've done already 6. We're more than halfway through. Any questions before we go on? Okay, stop me at any time. Okay, well, actually, there's some YouTube comments here. Someone says, Rabbi Federal scolded me for TH, meaning... Now, if you could elaborate on that, I'd be very interested. Meaning you pronounce the tav without the dot that I pointed out as a th, like, and Rabbi Federal said, cut that out. I'd be very interested to hear. And by the way, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with him either. I also don't pronounce it with a sound, but I have my reasons, and I wonder what his reasons are. Fine. I know I'd heard it used in Hadrasach. I'm not sure, without vowels, I'm not sure what word you're writing over there. Hadrathach. Why does Bo drop the aleph in the Torah? So I don't know what you're referring to. If you could be more specific in your question, Abigail, which Bo drops the aleph in the Torah? If you could please elaborate what you mean by that. Okay, T Bishop asks, then wouldn't it say Litarshish? So you tuned in a little bit late, T Bishop, but we learned that when we're talking about going to a place, it is normally written the way we have it up here. Tarshisha, that the kamatz hey at the end indicates the preposition to. Tarshisha. Not Litarshish, but Tarshisha. And here it's missing either the lamed before or the kamatz at the end, which is peculiar. And we discussed that now. Okay, so let's go on. Listen, it's so beautiful. Meaning, if you understand what this commentary makes of this, and he explains Rashi, and it's phenomenal. Anyway, Vayitain Sechara. That means Vayud again. We had it a bunch of times. And by now you're experts in Vayud and he. And he what? Shoresh, Taf Nun, missing a letter. What letter is missing? Let's look at our glossary. Okay, go down to we'll look. Okay, we're looking for a Shoresh that has a Taf and a Nun and is missing one letter. Stop me when you see it. Going slow. Stop me when you see it.
Stop.
Okay, which one is it?
It's Natan, give.
Natan, give. Very good. So the nun here, the first nun is missing. It's one of the Yonah letters, Yud Vav Nun Hey. So we recognize here this is give. Okay, so now using our little algorithm over here. So and he, past tense of give, and he gave. Okay, sichara, 2 parts. We have a word, a green vocabulary word, and a suffix. The suffix might look familiar, but it's new. And I'm going to show you how to recognize that. So first we need to figure out what this word is. We'll go to our glossary. And you'll see that the word with the same spelling is here, sachar. Sachar means payment or reward. Okay? Let's fill that in. Okay, and he gave something payment. He gave something payment. I'm going to shrink this a little bit so it'll fit on one line. Okay. What is this? What is the suffix? Okay, so those of you who did your homework and you studied Quizlet, you already know the answer, but I'm not going to assume anything. So let's go to our glossary. Okay, we'll go to our suffixes, prefixes, suffixes. Okay, we have a whole bunch of hey suffixes, and let's parse them all out. We learned about kamatz hey suffix that tells you the word is female singular. Okay, we covered that. We had the word ra'ah, female singular word. Oh, and you know what? Let me show you one other thing while we're at it, which I skipped. He saw an oniyah, a boat, and it was ba'ah. So we kind of glossed over it, but we have the verb come, and we have the kamatz hey feminine singular ending. Because what is coming? The oniyah is coming. The boat is coming. And oniyah ends with kamatz hey, which signals to you that oniyah is a singular feminine noun. A boat, oniyah, is singular feminine. So the verb of what it's doing is also in the singular feminine form. Oniyah, ba'ah. If it would have been masculine, it would have just been ba without the kamatz hey ending. But it's oniyah, feminine, so it's ba'ah. And that's what I put in the review notes. Verbs and adjectives will match the number and gender of the noun they are connected with. So since ba'ah, coming, is the verb for the oniyah, the boat, which is feminine singular. So the verb coming, the boat is coming, is feminine singular. Oniyah, ba'ah. Okay, pointing that out. Now let's go back to our glossary. So we have the kamatz hey for singular feminine ending. Great. We learned about kamatz hey after a place means to the place. Great. Last week we learned about this ha ending, the New York accent. Remember the New York accent? If you don't remember the New York accent, we'll go back to that. Right? Ukra aleha. Call unto ha. Her with a New York accent. Ha. Call unto ha. Okay? The city. We said the city was feminine. We explained why the city is feminine, even though it doesn't end with the classical feminine ending. We spoke about that, but you see the adjective hagidolah. The adjective is singular feminine because city is singular feminine for reasons we discussed last week. And call unto ha, her. Okay. Someone just joined. Cliff, we lost you.
Yeah, I had to rejoin.
All right, we're glad you're back. So going back now to, all right, let's go to the glossary again. So ha could mean her or it, like a city is a thing, not a person. Call unto it, the city. And it could be its, meaning belonging to it. Belonging to it. And the equivalent suffix is this one. It's a kamatz hey, but the hey has a dot in it. You can say, oh, it's the dugesh again, the fish. Not a fish, stop. You guys are thinking too much of Jonah and the fish. You have fish on the brain. Now, this dot in the hey is actually not called a dugesh. Why? I don't know why. But it's called a mapik. The dot in the final hey is called a mapik. What does it do differently than a dugesh? Not really sure. It certainly does create an emphasis in the pronunciation that normally we don't pronounce the hey at the end of a word when it doesn't have a vowel, right? The kamatz vowel belongs to the letter before it, and the hey is just silent. But when there's a dot in there, that hey gets a breathy sound. So that this would be, rather than this, which is just aw, this would be okay? You get a breath, you emphasize the H sound in there, and it means her, it, or it's belonging to her or belonging to it. So when we plug that back in, Vaitain Sachara, and he gave What? Help me out here, guys. Show me you were listening.
He
gave its payment. And the its refers to the payment of the
boat, the trip.
The boat. And here is a big question from Rashi, our favorite commentator. He says this is the wrong suffix. It should have said vayitain secharo, and o ending means his. He should have said, and he gave his payment. What does it mean he gave the boat's payment? So Rashi cites a teaching of the sages. He paid for the entire boat. He paid for the entire boat. He gave its payment. He came to the boat. He says, how soon are you sailing? They said, we just got here. We're not leaving for a few days. He says, I got to get out of here now. They said, listen, until we have passengers to fill up the boat, we ain't going anywhere. It's going to take a few days. We got to sell boat. We got to sell seats on the boat. He says, how many seats you got to sell? Whatever they told him, 20, 30, 50, I don't know. He paid the whole amount. He said, get me out of here. And that's why it says, the Malbim explains based on this, that's why it says Ba'a Tarshish. It was coming from Tarshish. It just got there. It was Ba'a, by the way, is present tense. It was coming. It doesn't mean it came. Even though if you should just know, for those who know grammar a little bit, if you want to say it came, you also say Ba'a. Ba'a would mean it came. Not really. With Ba'ata. That's the truth. But I won't go there in the end. It's a little too complicated. But take my word for someone's going to ask, isn't it past tense? It's not. If you want to know why, I'll explain it. But I won't go there right now. He came and he found it coming. It was just coming. It was just arriving. The boat was just arriving. And immediately he said, I'm paying for the boat. Let's go. Okay? It's an amazing, beautiful way to see the nuance of the Hebrew language here, how it's so perfect and exacting. Anyway, it all fits together. Fine. You have to know how to read. You have to know how to pay attention and be critical. Fine. Any questions on that line? He gave its payment. Okay. Gotta go. Bye, Spooky. Abigail Foster, Parshat Bo. So no, I'm not understanding you, because the Parsha Bo is spelled Bet Aleph. The Aleph does not. This Abigail asked earlier, why does Bo drop the Aleph? It doesn't drop the Aleph. Parshat Bo is spelled Bet Aleph. So I think the premise of your question is misinformed. Here the Vav is dropped and the Parsha Aleph is dropped. No, in both cases the Vav is dropped. Both cases. Oh, she corrected herself. Okay, good. See, sometimes I have to read to the end. Okay, I'm glad you caught that. Next line. Stop. Yeah, anytime. Vayered ba. Right? Kamatz hey with the mapik, ba. Vayered ba. So good. Vayud, let's go. We know it. Vayud. You can speak up.
And he.
Okay, now we have again the same shorish. Reish Daled, like we had over here. Reish Dal, Vayered. What does it mean? Oh yeah, I'll let you cheat.
Yeah, thanks. And he went down, or
and he went down, right? And he descended, and he went down. And he descended ba. Now, what's ba? We have a new prefix. Bet prefix. Don't think we had this one before. Bet prefix. It's in your Quizlet for prefixes. And it's updated today. And it's in the glossary, updated today. The prefix bet means in or with. It could mean other things too. Typically in or with. It's just the only reason it translates out into something different sometimes in English is because of the English idiom versus the Hebrew idiom. This is how you say it in English. This is how you say it in Hebrew. But the concept is essentially in or with. And so that's, we could just tentatively here put in, okay? And then we have the kamatz hey with a mapik ending, which we said means Oh, I didn't show you. I filled it in over here. The bet, I filled in as in. I left it a little tentative. We'll adjust it. But in, and then kamatz mapik ending. For those who remember, anyone want to say it?
Into or
Kamatz ending.
into the like.
No, that's the so the bet I'm gonna adjust it to be more English like. We'll say into, but the kamatz hey with the dot at the end is into what?
Into it's the boats something.
Into let's keep it simple. Let's just say into it. Okay, he descended. Right, because it is the boat. He gave its payment and descended into it. He went down into the boat. Okay, and let's finish up as we come to the near the 3 more lines. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's go. Lavo imahem. Okay, lamed prefix. And by the way, as Spooky pointed out, lamed prefix followed by shoresh is the infinitive of this shoresh. Anyone want to tell me what it is?
To come with them, essentially.
To come. Okay, so you're way ahead, Cliff.
Sorry.
To, that's fine. To come. Okay, and then we have the word that far we got. We have the word imahem, and you'll see that I divided imahem into 2 parts. A green vocabulary word, which has a suffix hem attached to it. So, for those of you who studied the Quizlet of the suffixes, know what hem means, but we'll get there. Meanwhile, we want to know what's that first part, the vocabulary word, the ayin mem over there. So we'll go to our thing here, and we have im, ayin mem, im. Of course, it's the final mem. Like I said, prerequisite for the class, you have to be able to read Hebrew. So you know this is the final mem. Im means with.
Yeah.
Okay, so with, to come with, and then the hem ending is equivalent. We had this before. We had the ending, and I put and hem together. It's in the Quizlet. It's also together. Them or their, as in belonging to them. Okay. Now, just to remind you where we had this before, so that's not totally new. The hem is new, but the is not new, and the is I'm for now I'm defining as equivalent to the them. Is when we had over here ki olisara asam ki alatara atam, because they're evil ra'a tam. And you remember we said over there that the hey at the end of the word ra'ah, when it's attached to a suffix, becomes a taf. So ra'at, and then ending. They're evil, because their evil has risen up. So there. And hem is also them or there. So lavo imahem, to come with them. Lavo imahem, to come with them. Okay, and now this part's easy. To come with them. Tarshisha.
Tarshish.
Huh?
Tarshish, the city.
Tarshish is the name of the city, but what's the ending?
Oh, suit. Yeah. Sorry, hang on. It makes it feminine.
You're forgetting. You fell into my trap.
I did.
Maybe because you came late to the class. That's why. I'll give you a pass. But let's look again at what we had earlier. Tarshisha. Levroach Tarshisha, we said, is to Tarshish. And why? So we put in the glossary here that you have 2 different kamatse endings. They look the same, but they function differently. One indicates feminine singular, but one, when it's the end of a place name, means the preposition to the place. And since over here we're talking about Tarshish, which is a place. The kamatz hey at the end means to Tarshish. Okay, so here, let me put that in over here. To Tarshish. And with the minute we have remaining, this should be easy. Because again, we had this over here. Milifnei Hashem. Right? And Jonah got up to run away to Tarshish. Milifnei Hashem. Mem from Lifnei before Hashem. Milifnei Hashem from before Hashem. And he descended to Jaffa and he found a boat coming from Tarshish, according to the Malbim, not coming to, but coming from. And he gave its payment because he said, I got to get out of here now, even though they just got there. He paid for the whole boat. And he descended into it to come with them to Tarshish. Milifnei Hashem, go. Milifnei Hashem. Anyone?
From before Hashem.
From before Hashem. So once again, trying to escape Hashem, as it were. And that is verse 3. Now, I know it's a lot, and it takes time, but you'll see, again, no one should be discouraged. You'll see that these parts of speech, if you were, or these prefixes, suffixes, shorashim, concepts, they're going to keep repeating. They're going to keep repeating. They're going to keep repeating. And the more repetition, the more regularity, the more you're going to get the hang of it. But I'm just trying to break it down in a way that you could see, you could chunk it down and make it easy. Now, mind you, I am simplifying it a lot by color coding it, so you can kind of see the different pieces. And I think that'll be very useful in the beginning. At a certain point, once you get the hang of it, so then it'll be on you to have to look at the word and find the different parts and divide it up. But I'm eliminating steps just so that we only have to jump over one hurdle at a time. So this was a nice big verse, a nice long verse. And Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish from before Hashem, and he descended to Jaffa when he found the boat coming to or from Tarshish, depending how you understand it. And he gave its payment, and he descended into it to come with them to Tarshish from before Hashem. Ta-da! Okay, so with that,
I've got a quick
take any
question.
questions or comments.
Yeah, I've got a quick question, and I'm sure there's a good, maybe it's just an idiomatic answer, but or an answer having to do with idiom. I've often wondered, like, why they put an a kamatz in imahem versus imhem. What the grammatical reason is, because technically it should be imhem, right? But it's imahem. What's the purpose of changing the shva to a kamatz in that particular case?
Yeah, this is a good question. So there are certain things that I am not privy to an answer to, other than to say that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's just kind of
I didn't design the language.
Yeah.
That's just how it is in the language. Maybe someone with more knowledge of grammar than me could give you a more thought through explanation, but it's sort of like we say in Israel, kacha. That's how it is. That's how it is. Why? That's how it is. That's how the language is.
Yeah.
But just to expand on that a little bit, we see, and I there are instances that I have been able to elaborate on why the vowels change, that I do have some insight. I have read something on it. I don't know everything. So there is a rhyme and there is a reason, and there is some algorithm to it. Sometimes I'm aware more than other times. Like I'm not sure always what the dagesh does. I'm not sure why in that case the shiva, in other words, im has the mem is without a vowel, and then you attach it to the suffix hem. So you would think im hem. then it becomes imahem. Well, why imahem? I don't know, but we see that when you do the Lego of clicking together a word with a suffix, the vowels shift to accommodate that. What exactly is the rhyme or reason behind the shifting of the vowels and how they transform into exactly what, a hey becomes a tough. There are transformations that take place. It's like this analogy comes up a lot, especially in mysticism, of the combination of the letters to form words, and that the letters represent like spiritual forces, and why the word in Hebrew davar, which means word, also means thing, because God creates the world with his words, and his words become reality. And for God, there's no difference between his word and the reality. So that each letter is like a chemical symbol that represents some spiritual force, and the vowels are like the chemical bonds, and these chemical molecules, they combine with these bonds, and different forces are released by that. They take on different properties and different combinations. The analogy between chemistry and the Hebrew language is very apt, so that a letter has certain qualities, but in combination, it takes on new qualities. So the vowels do serve a function in creating these chemical bonds between the letters. And the vowels represent different forces. And there's a lot in the Kabbalistic literature about that, and meditating on the vowels and the 4 letters of God's name with different permutations of vowels. It's fascinating stuff. I'm not a Kabbalist, and I don't have a strong grasp on any of this stuff, but I'm somewhat aware of the concepts through having encountered it in different studies. So, I do sound a little bit like a buffoon, but I'm saying, like, there's definitely something deep that would explain it. I just don't have that knowledge. So
I absolutely love that explanation that you just gave, though. It's just beautiful to think of it as an analogy with chemistry. But it occurred to me that with this word imahem, it has no business being one word, right? It really is 2 words, im hem, but they're being combined in a single word. And I'm wondering if that combination requires a change in the vowel.
Yeah,
I'm
for
wondering.
sure. In other words, almost all these cases of attaching suffixes, we find the vowels have to reorganize to accommodate that bond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is one of those instances. I sometimes I can explain it, and sometimes I'm like, I don't have enough knowledge about that. I just know that's what it is. I have a lot to learn still. So T Bishop says davar, abracadabra. So for those who don't know what he's referring to, there are those who have written. In fact, Aryeh Kaplan, I think, writes this in his introduction to his edition of the Sefer Yetzirah, which is a very ancient Kabbalistic book. He writes that you can see this concept that we're talking about now, because that's what Sefer Yetzirah literally means, the book of creation, is how God used the letters of the Hebrew alphabet to create the world, and the spiritual forces, and, so to speak, the spiritual chemicals that combine to create things. That's what the whole Sefer Yetzirah is about. So he talks about this idea of words becoming things. And so he says, if you look at the magic word abracadabra, do you think it's gobbledygook? Do you think it's just a nonsense word? He says, no. Abra is from the Hebrew shorish bara, to create, and we'll learn an aleph prefixes like I will. Abra, I will create. Ke, the kaf prefix, means as, like, or as. I create. Ke dabira. Dabira from the Hebrew shorish dalbet reish, which means to speak. Abira ke dabira means I create with speech. I use speech to create. And that's why they're magic words. The words bring something into the world. This abira kedabira is not just some nonsense word. It actually comes from Hebrew or Aramaic. It's definitely Semitic in origin. And even, again, I don't know where J.K. Rowling got it from, but even with the new Harry Potter stuff, with Avada Kedavra, Avada in Aramaic, Avad is the equivalent of in Hebrew asa, to make. Avad means to make. Avada kedabra means I make with speech. Abra kedabra means I create with speech. Avada kedabra means I make with speech. Yeah, like even in Hebrew, avad means to work or to serve, but to work in the Aramaic, that same verb means to make something. Avada. So abira kedabra, avada kedabra. These are all appear to be words with Semitic origins that have to do with using dibur, speech, to create in a mystical spiritual sense, and that's very rooted in Hebrew mysticism. Yosef says abracadabra is Aramaic. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Shalom Rabbi. Shalom B'nai Noach, Hearts for Hashem. Shalom Stephen. J.K. Rowling is probably friends with dorks like me. Maybe. Okay. Zachariah says good night. And yeah, that's it for this week. So thanks for tuning in. Next week, verse 4, God willing, maybe more. We'll see how far we get. But I hope that if you review the class and you play the Quizlet review games and quizzes and self-tests and whatever, you will continually improve. Every week will be a little bit easier than the one before.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.